You're listening to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast, the show with a light-hearted look at the eventing world, all of the big event previews, reviews, and special guests, and of course, backed up with all of the key Echo Ratings stats. Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast. Welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast and the next episode in our Fairfax Saddle specials. Now, Sam Watson joins me.
Is that my cue to say something, Nicole Brown?
That's your cue to say something. Welcome, Sam. You've not been on one of these. I'm looking forward to having you on.
I know. I'm going to have to not talk too much. That's definitely a challenge for me. But I'm very much looking forward to learning about our young guest. I admired him from the saddle, particularly last year at Tattersalls. So yeah, I will let you do the intro, but I'm excited about this one.
I think you may have said some very kind words on the Tattersalls preview podcast a year or so ago on our next guest. He's a young rider who has come through junior ranks, young rider ranks. He has completed at 5-star level. He's had an exceptional season in 2019, even if it did finish a little prematurely. We'll talk about that in a moment. But welcome to the Echo Ratings Eventing Podcast, Tom Jackson.
Thank you very much for having me. That's quite a big introduction. I'm not sure if I can live up to that now.
Oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Tom, we're really looking forward to having you on because, as I say, we've talked about you on the podcast before and we cannot wait to hear your story as well. So we'll start. I've just said there that 2019 finished a little prematurely. Hartbury, unfortunately, didn't go to plan. You ended up with a broken leg. So you've been on the sidelines for the rest of the season. How is the leg looking now? Are you on the mend?
Yeah, no, the leg is doing well, actually. We've had loads of support from the World Class programme and rehab and things like that. And I've actually been back on now for a couple of weeks or so. So, yeah, all systems go again very shortly.
Brilliant. And did the horses just have a sort of an early winter break and then they're coming back in a little bit earlier than normal, perhaps?
Yeah, so we worked it so that a couple of good friends came down and kept most of the horses ticking over, and a couple of the younger ones actually went off, to other people's yards to have a bit more training and things. And then they all went out on holiday and they've all just come back in. So as everyone else is kind of finishing off, we're getting ready to go again.
All systems go, and a good winter, and you'll be back fighting fit in 2020.
Exactly. Yeah.
Have you been doing rehab? Have you been doing rehab, Tom? Do you know about all these tear bands and things like that? Have you been doing all your physio?
Yeah. So I had, it was actually a really good experience. I went to Bisham Abbey, the IRU, says in the name, an intensive rehab place. Yeah, so no, it was a really, really great experience. They had a whole team of people there, and there's a maximum of 3 athletes there per week. So I was really fortunate that World Class were able to send me there and kind of give me a kickstart back into it, really.
Has it tempted you into, or you may have already been there beforehand, but into the world of strength and conditioning and treating yourself as an athlete rather than doing what most eventers do, which is concentrate on the horses being the athletes and then just eat digestive biscuits every morning and numerous cups of tea?
Are you talking from experience, Sam?
Yeah. I know that Berto is a keen digestive biscuit eater as well. He likes chocolate coated ones.
Still a few digestives in there, but it did open my eyes to how, in inverted commas, proper athletes operate and train on a daily basis. And I've definitely taken away, a lot from that. I did do some strength and conditioning and some Pilates stuff in 2018. And I would say that was probably one of my best years. So I'm definitely keen to carry on with that because I think it does seem to make a big difference.
Yeah, agreed. And I think it's the way the sport is going. We're still technically an amateur sport, really, but we train like professionals, and I think not just from a horse point of view. I think that's coming into all areas of it now. So it's either stay ahead or get left behind, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. I think you got to, like you said, it's all aspects of it, isn't it? It's the business. It's kind of every aspect of the sport. If you want to if you're aiming high, then you've got to aim high in all aspects of it.
If we can actually come back to the business side of things a little bit later on, because I think that's a really interesting perspective, because you're kind of at the early part of your career as such, as setting out as a real professional and a really strong team of horses, but you're established with that now. If we go back to the beginning a little bit, because Waltham Fiddler's Find, who was the horse that took you from Pony Club through junior, won a team gold at junior level, then Young Riders, 2 Young Rider European Championships, your first badminton as well. He's been kind of the dream in terms of kickstarting your career. Tell us a little bit about him, because he's a bit of a character at home as well, isn't he?
Yeah, so he's a horse that we actually never really intended buying. I was too big for the pony that I had at the time, and kind of, a bit cheeky of us, we went down to the local dealers, basically just so I could ride some horses and, see how I got on. And he was some cheap, cribbing 4-year-old at the time that was completely unsuitable for a lad that didn't really know one end of the horse from the other at that point in time. And we brought him, and then, just through working through Pony Club at the beginning, and then training when I was based at different eventing yards and things, he's then turned into a bit of a superstar, and he was actually the one I got back on for the first time after breaking my leg. So he doesn't really owe me anything. He's been such a good servant to me.
It's funny when you look at that first horse that gets you to the top level. I always look back on Bushman, who I tried to sell numerous times and ended up just being not from much money, by the way. He was the one that was left over that we couldn't get rid of, so we just cracked on. And I always thought, God, if only I knew now what I knew then, I would have done a better job with him. But then I also think that the flip side is that a lot of these horses, I always think your first top horse has different qualities, in that if they were a world beater, you probably would have never afforded to have bought them in the first place, and someone else would have had them. So they needed you as much as you needed them, because they needed someone to give them the opportunity, give them the chance. And they're probably, their biggest quality is that they're forgiving enough to allow you to learn at the same time as them. I think in particular for me, Bushman had different qualities in that he had a big heart, and he put up with me. But yet he was brave enough and talented enough to get to badminton and get around badminton and do that sort of stuff. Was it the same kind of story with this guy, or like what were his strengths and weaknesses?
Yeah, so obviously we never did as much as you and Bushman did, but someone always said to me that he was just the right amount of stupid, and I think that goes back to what you were saying about being forgiving enough. When I was making mistakes and getting it wrong and learning, he just didn't mind that much, and luckily had the ability as well to get me out of trouble a few times. So it was a great learning curve, from all aspects of it. When he first turned up, he was quite foreign in his breeding, and he didn't like mud. And I remember taking him on his first hack when I got him home, and I couldn't get him to go for a puddle. He just kept spinning around and running back down the road with me. So I think, from all aspects of it, it made me learn how to ride properly and learn how to train horses, which I think is so important, obviously, in what we do now. His
international career actually started out, you're going to like this, so we like to throw the odd decorating stat in there. His international career started out, he won on his third international start at Weston Park in the Junior 1-star, as it was then, back in 2010. Now, his dressage score on that occasion was 23.5, and that remains, Tom, your best ever international dressage score.
Oh, didn't know that.
So he still holds records for you.
When you convert to current scoring, 35 back in those days is a serious score.
23.5 as it would be now.
Yeah, serious score.
He sort of went from there juniors, so he got over the going through the puddles. You won team gold on your junior team debut back in 2011, it must have been. he went up Young Rider days. Did he continue to surprise you? I mean, obviously he didn't have the most sort of obvious of starts to an eventing career, but did he continue to surprise you, or did you learn pretty quickly that actually you were sat on something that really did have quite a lot of talent?
I don't know really. I think I dreamed at the beginning that he was gonna take me to badminton, and I think the first time I took him cross country, I came back to my mum and said, "This horse is going to go around badminton," in a very enthusiastic and bold way, knowing absolutely nothing about anything. And so I kind of always dreamed, and that's what I hoped. And realistically, never did I think that it was going to happen. But like I said, he's been such a good servant to us in kind of every way, that he's just kept being such a reliable, good horse, especially cross country. He's just such a class horse to ride, and just makes it all feel so easy.
If we look back to sort of the middle part of his career, so he won Bramham Under-25 Championships back in 2014. The following year, he was sixth there in the same class. That earned you a call-up for your first senior championship, which I think you were first reserve, and then Flora, Harris, Bayano had to withdraw from the team. So you got a call-up to be up to Blair. But it didn't go to plan, and unfortunately it meant a bit of time on the sidelines. How difficult was that? Because obviously it was the dream, and to have this incredible opportunity that unfortunately didn't unfold. How hard was that from a mental perspective of then sort of pushing forwards with your career?
I mean, at the time it was obviously very, very difficult. I was fully aware that, Young Riders finishes, and then there's quite a big gap to fill between being a kind of senior team member, and so to have that on that call up on the first year of being a senior, I was thinking this is going to be good, and we can go and do this and get a result, and then obviously the injury happened, and everything comes crashing back down to earth, and it makes you kind of sit and realise, and there were probably a few tears at the time. But ultimately, I remember even then, everyone was so supportive. It was actually at team training at the time, and Pippa was there giving me loads of advice, as she has continued to do so, as well as William Fox-Pitt as well. So that drive home was definitely hard. But when I look back on it now, the whole sport is about bouncing back from these things, and whoever you are, however good or bad you are, these ups and downs happen, and it's just about how well you can come back from these kind of low points.
Yeah, I would say you've hit the nail on the head there. It's a real test of resilience. Every sport kind of has its different attributes, doesn't it? Like, some of them, cycling, probably pushing through physical pain barriers, and that side of it, golf, ultimate kind of concentration over 4 days and that sort of stuff. I think one of the big things for us is that resilience, that added factor of the horse, and those thankfully not too many serious injuries, but those soft tissue injuries, it's just time on the sidelines, and it can be hard. Plus you put the 3 phases together. I was looking at your Bramham Under-25 win. It was 22 starters, 9 of them fell off that year. It was obviously, that was obviously a decent, serious Bramham track. And you've done 2 Eric Winter badmintons as well. They have not been soft track. So you've taken on some really tough cross country tracks with this. I mean, I would say, that win, that Bramham win, has got to mean something, and then your first badminton as well. Like that was a massive experience for me, and it was a different world when you see that number of people and stuff. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, so Bramham was pretty amazing on every level, in terms of my first kind of big win, and with that horse as well. The first time at that level again, so it was kind of, and walking that track, I was thinking, God, this is a big ask. But we got round on the Saturday, and then just sat there and watched all the monitors, and I think I'm right in saying that he was maybe fourth or fifth going into cross country, and all the people in front just kind of fell off and had problems, and I'm thinking, God, actually we're climbing up quite quickly here. But then to actually pull it off and win was really kind of special for kind of everyone involved in the whole process until that point. And then badminton as well is, it's just like, unlike any other event in the world. It's, as kids, we always went as a family and watched, and kind of went every year. And I always said, that's what I want to do. And then to actually finally get there was really special. Didn't end up going to plan the first year really, but you live and you learn. And I just made a mistake after having what was a pretty good round until that point. That meant that the result wasn't as good, but we got the completion there.
And how special was it? Because actually, not only was it your first badminton, but this was after he had missed the whole of the 2016 season. So he'd come back from a pretty serious sort of break and injury to come back and then actually to complete that first badminton.
Yeah, I mean, that was it was great to have him back as well. It had been quite a long road to get him back. And get him as fit and as well as he needed to be to obviously go to something like badminton. And we were very kind of cautious with the amount of runs, so we didn't perhaps have the ideal preparation, but he was there and he was fit and well and, finished it so well as well that it just, it meant the world to us that he got round and how well he finished, and then went on to do another 3, now 5 stars after that.
And actually, that's a good point, because he's had quite a good experience at that level now. So he was top 25 at Poen the same year as his badminton debut. Things didn't go to plan in the show jumping at badminton the following year, but he'd jumped clear cross country then. And then a top 20 result at Poen 2018 as well, which was a tough track. Is he retired? Will we see him back out competing again? He's obviously sort of 16 years of age this year, so he's done a lot in his career, but what's the plan for him now?
So he, like I said before, he owes me nothing. He's not officially retired yet, but I kind of left it open for him to decide in terms of he's well enough and he's working, and actually Sabrina, my girlfriend, is riding him all the time and enjoying him, because he's not the type of horse that we could just say, okay, you're retired and back off of him like that, because he's such a personality. He just wouldn't cope well with that. So he's, we might see him back out again with Sabrina if I can convince her to go around some novices or something like that.
I was going to say, maybe she can take over the reins for a bit of affiliated eventing.
Well, exactly, yeah. I'm trying to convince her, but she's not keen at the moment, but it's a work in progress.
That's probably a good segue into talking about your yard, because Sabrina's a huge part of Team Jackson and running the yard at home as well, isn't she?
Yeah, she's been or is fundamental in the whole setup that we've got here. Incredibly lucky that we kind of started the business together, and it's just evolved from that, really. She, manages everything so that I can try and concentrate on the riding as much as possible.
Tom, what age were you when you decided that eventing was going to be a job and a career rather than just a hobby?
So I left school at 16 after convincing my parents that was what they needed to let me do, which took a bit of persuading, but they were supportive in that. And then went to work for a couple of different riders. So I was at Sasha Pembles, or now Hurrigan. And then I went to work for Dasset Eventing as well, and was their rider for a bit before setting up, I think, on my own when I was I think it was last year of Young Riders, so I would have been 21, or just turning 21.
It's hard. So, well, firstly, you've gotten a good start there with Sasha because she's got that Irish blood. So that's
Yeah.
good
good. You got
blood,
to
the
be, you got
Irish,
to
isn't
be,
it, Sam?
yeah. It's very important to get that Irish foundation in there somewhere. No wonder you've already been killing it around 5 stars. I can see why now. But that is a young age still. Early 20s to be setting up by yourself. And like when I saw you at Tats in 2018, I think you were first, third, and sixth on 3 horses that weren't your top horse, who we've just been talking about. So like you've already had a string. So did you have owners from the get go? Has it always been very much kind of high performance focused, or is there other kind of bread and butter side of the business that you do, producing young horses?
So when I first started, it was a big decision, obviously, to leave the kind of comfort of being based with someone and the security of that to then going it alone is quite a big decision. And I spoke to a couple of people that I really respected before I did that. And once I made the decision, then it's kind of go hard or go home, really, isn't it? You got to throw everything into it and make it happen. So the first year was tough in terms of horses and things. I was working at a racing yard most mornings, mucking out before I went to the racing yard, riding out a whole load of lots for the racing yard, and then going off and teaching and riding a few horses out and about before coming home, and then riding the ones that I had at home. And then I was lucky enough to kind of meet through doing that an owner that then we based ourselves with for 4 or 5 years, and really kind of kick-started us and the business. And then through kind of just, I suppose, in some ways we got a reputation for taking slightly naughtier horses or trickier horses and turning them around, and then we've been able to kind of get the quality of those horses better and better as time's gone on until we're at the point where we are kind of now.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's actually, there's a few parallels there to. I remember I was based with Laura Collett for a while. She rode the racehorses in the morning. You've got to balance kind of cash flow with trying to build up a string of horses. I don't know, having kind of dipped my toe into normal startup life, I suppose, with equi ratings and knowing racing quite well. Like racing people often give out about how tough it is to make a living. I don't know anything as tough as trying to start out in eventing. It is great in that we're able to work on something that we love, but the level of hard work, physical hard work, the hours you've got to put in, and the dedication, and like we've already talked about, the resilience. I think it's so tough, but I think that's what makes such strong kind of people out of it. You look at the top people in the sport, that the Pippa Funnels and the William Fox Pitts and the Andrew Nicholsons, and we could keep going. I'm sorry, I've left out millions of
Sam
really
Watson.
top eventers. No, we won't go there. We certainly won't be going there.
I was wondering where that list was going then.
No. But I can hear that coming through. It is just, it's and you take out every opportunity you can. I think I was mid to late 20s, but it was the first time I ever said to someone, sorry, no, I wouldn't be able to take that horse. Like it's
yeah, exactly that. It's when you get to that stage, isn't it? It's when you get to that stage that you think you can that you've got enough, and that, like you say, that's quite a big turning point when you can actually afford to turn a horse down.
Yeah. What's the big driver now? Are you dreaming of any kind of single outcome or objective? Is there a certain result at badminton or a team appearance or something like that, or are you more kind of a purpose driven person, that there's just an underlying reason that gets you out of bed every morning? What's driving you?
So I'd say just the competitiveness, whatever level whatever, we have, big dreams and big ambitions that I'm sure, most people that are doing it, kind of professionally have, but just that drive and that determination to be competitive and to not accept being average, I guess, is as crude as that sounds, is that I don't want to settle. I want to keep pushing myself and the team around me to drive as far as we can go.
That's cool. Very good.
Go on, Tom. Is there one really big one that you'd like to win? Badminton or Olympic gold?
Of course, yeah. Of course, everyone wants to win. Everyone wants to win badminton. Everyone wants to go to the Olympics. Those are the kind of pinnacles of the sport. That's the real aim and the real drive behind it, is to be be on that podium at badminton or the Olympics. Really, I'll take either.
Either. Sam, which would you pick?
I don't know. It's a hard, people hate this. Well, no, you see, when you ask this question, yeah. So when you've got like your eventing podcast hat on or a presenter's hat on, you want someone to, like Alex Bragg gave me the best answer. He goes, being honest, I want to win everything. I want to win every event. And some people are like that is, they are driven that way. But I can see how a lot of people, like, the outcomes look after themselves when the day-to-day is right. And I that's more the vibe I'm more kind of down that line of thinking myself. It's like, I feel that if I do everything right and try and do everything just a little bit better, I'm always just looking for, okay, what's the next little improvement that's there, but not losing sight of just keeping the day-to-day very, very, professional and to a high level. And, it's about not deciding, we're just going to hack everything today rather than scoot because I couldn't be arsed doing this, or I couldn't be arsed setting up, exercises, or don't want to go cross country schooling because it's cold and stuff like that. I think those are the things that can stop people achieving the best. So just those things. And because it's easy to dream. And sometimes I think, you could spend a day.
You have to dream. I think you have to dream, because if you don't dream, what's the carrot at the end? Like, you've got to have that dream.
You have to have the dream, but you have to have your stepping stones to make that dream realistic, don't you? Like Sam's saying, you can't, a lot of what we do is on our own, or, within our own team, and we're kind of making the decisions, and there's no one there kind of pushing you to do that extra stuff. So you either have to take it on and do it yourself, and be determined and driven through, the hard winters and the getting up early and all of the rest of that. Then, otherwise it's not going to happen. You're not going to make those small improvements.
Nicole, have you heard the phrase that life is a journey and not a destination?
I have heard that phrase, yes.
For me, is sport as well, because you realise.
You're right.
Did you hear about Victoria Pendleton when she won her Olympic medals? She actually got depressed after it. In that's what she'd been aiming for. That was all she'd
dreamt of.
Yeah, and you can, but everyone is. That's the other that is the that's the art behind sport. We're obviously very. Sure, we have a data science company, you know what I mean? We're obviously, I'm quite scientific in certain ways, but the art is in what drives people, like how people improve as well. Like the scientific bit is the accountability, monitoring how much you're improving and trying to, eke out more efficiency and all that sort of stuff. But how you do it and also then what motivates you. I love the fact that Oliver Townend is a different personality to Chris Burton, who's different to Piggy French. I think that's what makes the sport. That's what makes sport so interesting. Tom, if you could, you've mentioned a couple of sort of mentors for you through the sport, but if I gave you a month's training with 4 horses, so you can pack up your lorry, you can go and base yourself. I'll pay you a wage and a salary while you're doing it. I'll pay you 10 grand a
sounding
week.
appealing.
I was going to say, Sam, you're feeling very generous today.
While you're doing this, whose yard would you go to? Any person in the world. I'll fly you to America if you want to go to America, or Australia. You just name the yards you want to go in. It can be outside of eventing, even if you wanted it to be.
That's a tricky one. I would always say Pippa, because she's helped us so much, and I train with her already. But I feel like that would be a waste of your 10 grand a week, because we already have loads of training with her and get as much from her as possible. So although it would be beneficial, I feel like we could go anywhere. I think you'd have to go to Young, wouldn't you? You'd have to go out there and see, for someone to have dominated the way he's done, in the past kind of couple of Olympic cycles is kind of unheard of, really, isn't it? So you've got to go and see what's happening there, really.
Go and get some inside secrets.
Yeah.
at least the airfare to Germany isn't too expensive for you, Sam.
Yeah, you haven't got quite a horses. That's good.
It's interesting that the Pippa's helped an awful lot of people, and she always said herself that now she loves to play herself down as well. So you got to be careful about taking everything she says, because she's actually quite kind of negative, I think, humble in many ways. But about herself. Yeah.
I think she always says she uses that sometimes the negativity in a positive way, or to make her think that it's actually better than it is, when she's spoken to me in the past, which is not something that I can do. I think if I was that, I wouldn't be. That's just not the way my mind works. But it clearly works, wonders for her.
Yeah, exactly.
How has her influence? When did you start to train with her? Was it before or after 2015? You just mentioned earlier on that you were at training camp alongside the likes of Pippa before the European Championships that year. Was that a relationship you already had, or did it grow from there?
Not really. It kind of grew from there. In some ways, she almost found me, in that we kind of, as you do with a lot of people on the circuit, you know them and you say hello to them and things. But it was, I can't remember what year it was, but it was at Osberton. She came and found me and said, I've got this horse that's way too big for me. I think it's going to be too strong. I'm just going to, tell the owner, would you be interested? And I nearly fell over, because I thought, this is, me, and Pippa saying, oh, do you want one of my horses? And I thought, crikey. But we ended up getting the horse called Casper, who is still enormous. And then it was from then on, really, when I started to train with her.
Was that Billy Cuckoo, or was that a different horse?
No, Billy Cuckoo was after.
Okay.
Cuckoo was after. So I actually started riding Billy Cuckoo whilst Pippa was off for a bit after a fall. And then when she was coming back, she didn't want to ride too many at an event. So I started riding her then, and then it kind of escalated from that, really. So she's been very good to us, in that she's already given us at least a couple of horses, and as well as all of her training and her expertise, and just the amount of time, whether it's at events or on the phone. She's incredibly generous with her knowledge and her time.
That is without doubt the coolest story that any young person can boast about, who basically at the time, the only rider to ever win the Grand Slam in the world, the woman who has won everything. It's like, oh yeah, she kind of looked me up to ride some horses.
We saw that it's come across. We had Pippa on the Windrush Equestrian Foundation special episode, and the generosity with her time, and she gets as much pleasure out of people that she helps, like you, Tom, and I'm sure with having great deal of success with horses that you've had from her, because actually Court Casper, the horse that was the original horse, I'm presuming, won Tattersalls under 25 3-star back in 2018, which was the year that you caught Sam's eye. And Billy Cuckoo actually gave you your first top level, your second top level, I should say, 4-star win, because you had won Bramham, but actually won at Belton with Billy Cuckoo. What was that, 2018 as well?
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah. So like I said, we've been very fortunate for Pippa to pass us those horses, and for them to work out the way they have. Both had a little bit of an injury so they haven't been out this year, but they're back in now and working, and hopefully we can continue that success at the beginning of next year with them both.
Let's talk a little bit about next year, because you're obviously ready to be back, raring to go for the start of the new season. You'll be fully fixed. Who have we got in your string? I'm not going to just say pick one horse for the Eventing podcast listeners to follow, because that's cruel. But who have you got to look out for? Pencross Crown Jewel was one that caught my eye, particularly at Bergam this year, where you had a great success in the 4-star there.
Yeah, so unfortunately for us, that was actually one of Ros Cantor's.
No.
So I was just filling in. I was filling in for her this year with that horse. So I really enjoyed it, and again was felt very privileged for her to ask me to ride it this year. But,
maternity leave services.
I know, yeah.
Oh, so it's
someone is really rooting for Ros to get pregnant again.
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, let's talk about Capol's Hollow Drift, who was the silver medalist at Le Lion d'Angers Young Horse World Championships last year, stepped up to 4-star level this year, because that's a very exciting ride. And you're definitely keeping that on for next year. No maternity leave.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. He's seriously exciting. I think he's got all the attributes of being a real top horse. And he's had good form until now, so it'd be a big year for him next year, stepping up to long form out at 4-star. But he should cope with it very well. So hopefully he'll be able to get a few good results in.
And
second at Le Lion, that's a big result. Was that
huge last year?
What do you view as your best ever performance?
I don't know really.
That's a tough question, in fairness.
It's the journey, not the destination, Sam.
Yeah, this is but Nicole, this is when you look back on your journey and you go, what was your best pit stop? What was the best service station you pulled into? What's your best destination so far? When it is hard.
Generally last year was one of those years that kind of everything seemed to go well for us. Whether it be at Tats at the beginning of the year, where all of them just went, better than expected, or at the end of the year when Leon, that was really quite special at Leon, with Capel's Hollow Drift, and then the next week at Poe.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, go on. Sorry, keep going. I'm interrupting you. I was just going to say, if someone's going to beat you, it's okay if it's Ingrid Klimke.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I watched it jump the first couple of fences and then turned away because it was jumping so well. And the top of the wings, I thought, wow, it's never going to have a fence.
And then you went on to Poe then afterwards as well. So yeah, it was a hell of a season. Yeah,
no, last year was good. It was kind of my best, I think, world ranking, best in the British eventing rankings as well. Like I said, we just had some good results. And with some serious horses, and hopefully we can replicate that next year after this year. Kind of being okay, but like I said, falling a bit short in every sense, I think.
I've got a fun fact for you on last year. So in 7 international seasons, you have actually had 100% clear cross-country jumping record in 5 of them. But the most notable one would be 2018, because you had 10 top level runs. So this is only top level, so 4 and 5 star. So you had 10 runs at 4 and 5 star and a 100% clear jumping record across different horses, which is pretty impressive.
Well, hopefully we can do that again next year, I guess. The cross country I would always think would hopefully be my strongest point or my strongest phase. But yeah, that's always nice to know. I didn't know that. So yeah.
There you go. Echo ratings pull all the good stuff.
Exactly.
Tom, I'm going to put you on the spot. if you could, you've made a successful career from a young age. Starting your own yard at 21, it is a very, very big deal. If somebody else was looking to do something similar, what would be the biggest piece of advice, or what piece of advice would you give yourself 4, 5, 6 years ago?
I would say, advice-wise, I would say that, if you have the dream and you work hard, then anything is possible. It's very easy in our sport to look at other people and their situations and be envious of backing and maybe, parents' financial situations and things like that. But, and it does in some ways make things easier, but, you can still do it if you haven't got that kind of background. You can still make it happen if you work hard enough, and ultimately you're good enough, I think.
I was going to ask a similar question, Nicole Brown, but so I got a little twist on it.
Go on then.
It was going to be, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned so far? I was trying to think, what would I answer to this? And I remember the only thing that popped into my head, and this is not the answer, by the way, but you just can't stop things popping into your head. I had a really old lorry when I first moved to England, and the fuel gauge was, when it got below a quarter, if I went up a hill, it would just conk out because all the fuel would just go to the back.
Go to the back of the lorry. So your lesson would be invest in a new fuel gauge.
Exactly. So I thought to myself, I was like, you never learnt that lesson, Sam, that never set off to a hilly destination with less than a quarter of a tank or top up. Anyway, no, there were other much more meaningful lessons, but that was all that was popping into my head. But Tom, I'm sure you have something that is more hope. I mean, like, I've set the bar really low there.
I was going to say, you've given him plenty to work with, to be honest.
Yeah, anything you say at this point now, people are going to think that you're a Tom Wise Jackson.
I think the first thing that popped into my head was after I won at Western, the JRN with Wolf and Fiddler's Find, and at the time I was based with Sasha, and she came up to me afterwards and she said, "Enjoy this, because it doesn't happen very often, and you'll need it when it's going the wrong way or going badly." She used a few ruder words than that, but that's really stuck with me through the tough times, because I think it is important to enjoy some of those wins and make sure that you do actually enjoy them, because it's very easy a lot of the time. You build up to them, it happens, and it can almost be a bit kind of underwhelming if it does actually end up with you winning. So you do need them to keep you going when you have the setbacks.
I think that's much, much more wise than Sam's lesson. I think a lot of people can take that on board. And
plenty of stories about the lorry breaking down as well, but that was.
I think that's a very, very valid point.
The only thing I would say, Nicole, is that anyone can run out of fuel, whereas not many people can do what Tom Jackson did and win Weston Park on a score of like 23 or something ridiculous like that. But if you do manage to do that, then absolutely savor that moment.
Savor the day. Absolutely.
No, you're dead right, Tom. You're dead right. It's far too easy to always be aiming for that little next step that's out of reach. You definitely have to enjoy your moments, haven't you? And
there's tough moments in sport. You can even just take this season for as an example. You were having a brilliant year to a point where actually back down to earth with a bit of a bump. But
a serious bump.
Yes. Yeah, well, I'm not going to lie. I was in cross country control that day, Tom, because I was commentating, and there was a certain degree of concern for a good while. And I have to admit, I really felt for Pippa, because she was actually held out on course just behind you. And so she was aware that obviously you'd had the fall, and that there was a fairly lengthy hold until the course was clear again for her to continue. So
I know she rang me and gave me a bit of a stick about that, actually.
She probably did. Yeah. But
welcome to the world of eventing. Don't feel sorry for the guy on the ground with a broken leg. Feel sorry for the person who's been delayed.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly that.
Tom, onwards and upwards to 2020. We hope that you'll come back onto the podcast again and keep you keep us updated with your progress, because we'll certainly be following with interest. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on in this latest episode of the Fairfax Saddle Special. So thank you.
No, thank you very much for having me.
And Sam, the lorry story, I'm sure will go down in history of Sam's special stories.
Sam's special stories. That could be an episode by itself, Nicole. But this is the beauty of these rider specials, is that I am just the filler.
You are.
And
you are.
It's been a pleasure to talk to Tom. I think he's got a hell of a future, and I think like to have the experience under his belt that he's got, that's come from a great work ethic. But the results, there's some serious quality, and across so many horses. I think that's kind of the unusual thing for someone kind of this young is to have had some really, really nice results on quite a wide range of horses. So I would say that keep an eye on that man.
Well, we will be watching out for Tom Jackson in 2020 and beyond. Listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this latest episode in the Fairfax Saddle Specials. Don't forget to like us, subscribe, share us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever your social media is. We would love to hear from you as well. But for now, that is all we've got time for. Tom, thank you. Sam, thank you. And we'll be back very soon. In fact, the next episode in the Fairfax Saddle Special is with, and I'll drop it in there now, none other than Harry Mead. And that'll be coming for you in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. But for now, that is all we've got time for.